Hey everybody, happy Women's History Month. I'm Lisa Alvarado with WomxnWise. I'm here today at the Source LGBT Center near downtown Visalia next to the Oval.
Is this other poem that I never get to read at competitions because I try not to fuck the time limit if I can help it.
Fuck the time limit.
But I have no time limit here because this is the Ellis Hour and you all have to sit through whatever I subject you to.
Exactly.
So during this Ellis Hour where I'm allowed to do whatever I want,
Yes.
this is a poem about the time I got to see my greatest inspiration in person.
All right.
It's called Get Up Coward, by the way. The ponytail that held my dirty blonde hair back was kept so tight with gel and suffocating spray that my scalp split and leaked as girls tugged on the curls held in a bouquet on my head. The crisp locks sat in foam curlers overnight, a tumor smothered with a red bandana so nothing would fall out of place. Sleep escaped me, my corpse soaked in the moon and starlight for years. When they pulled a curl taut, it sprang back up perfectly. My head told me to tell them to stop, but I liked that they were touching my hair. I was thankful for the tugging, ache, and rush of release as we reached 30 with each stretch in our warm-up routine. The loosened flow of blood to my head made me dizzy for a moment, but then shook off the rest that I missed. I took my place in formation, wore my best smile to match my vibrant uniform. The symbol on my chest was vague, neither letter nor mascot nor name to claim me. The weight of the eyes of those watching, my mom, my coach, the other teams of young girls pressed down on my shoulders. My muscles tensed again. I silently started an 8 count to myself as the song I'd heard so much I started to despise it blared through the speakers of the gym, bounding off the glossy wooden floors and lofty ceiling to drown us. Despite my body's protests, I began the routine as we had rehearsed for more hours than I cared to count. During practice, I didn't have to think about the steps, but here, mistakes were inexcusable. I put all of my focus into performing every move, every pose, exactly as expected, forced past the pleading in my bones for rest, disregarded the slick of sweat that made my skirt stick to my thighs, did my best to balance my spotless white sneakers in the hands of the girls beside me, held my breath to keep steady as they held me up toward the ceiling. I had been doing this, flying long enough. I knew exactly how it worked. I knew the spotters knew how to send me, to catch me. I landed safely in the arms of those girls so many times I felt their support before I even finished rising. Dozens of discussions dug the fear of the ground from my mind, wiped my memory of the countless moments when the arms meant to succor my landing did nothing to save me from the flat of my back. I lost my path heavenward, hanged high in the air, thick with body sprays bought from the mall down the street and sweat we all hoped nobody would notice. I let myself suck in a breath in the split second of peace I found at such great height. No hand nor ground here to remind me of how real and temporary this flesh is. My eyes shut out the blinding, exposing light of the buzzing fluorescent fixtures above us. My arms found their practice position for landing, crossed over. My chest closed, as small as I could be, as tense as I could manage. I waited for the arms of those below to catch me, waited for the stifling air to stop rushing past me, for the hours of practice and preparation to pay off and mean something. I fell for longer than I was meant to, farther down than the arms meant to cradle my frame, felt the air in my lungs rush back into the room, beaten out by the force against my back, reminded of how unforgiving gravity can be. My landing made my eyes fly open wide with unheard, unquenched questions. I gasped in a lung full of air, the sound rough and harsh in my throat, and begged the oxygen to feed my weary blood. Tears that threatened to humiliate me burned the backs of my eyes. I clenched my teeth. The oxygen in my lungs sparked and came alive with a growl. I spit my maw to exhale a ragged, cry, caught between a savage roar and a tortured scream, escaped my core, clenched tight as it ached in its effort, forcing my voice out to be as vast, as deafening as it could be, drown out the drone of the track from the routine. Burst the eardrums of those who'd always told me I'm too loud. I kept crying until I tasted iron on my tongue. My body begged me to be quiet. I wasn't finished. There was still more thunder within me. As my throat lost fortitude, my voice began to falter. Another sound filled the room, distorted and different from those that surrounded me, but unmistakably familiar. A demand, a declaration of war that echoed the urgency of my own from the chest of one who is just as unsatisfied. The roar of their voice twisted with that of the flame that reached across the wasteland of the gym, blinding and searing hot. The banners boasting the successes of past athletes were quick to catch a light and urge the burn into the walls. The coaches and cheerleaders in the tiered seats shrieked and stumbled down the steps over the railings in a rush for the doors. As they escaped, their shouts did little to overwhelm the cries of the pyre and its parent. The glow of the pilot light blazed bright in their brunette hair, a shaggy veil around their face in shades of gold. When they fed the thrower fuel, sending solar flares into the ceiling with fierce laughter, the fire bathed the euphoric grin through which they growled with holy light. The gym, the glossy floors, the plastic seats disappeared into smoke and soot as they fed the hellish halo that framed my savior's figure. The flames danced along as they twirled and kicked their scuffed, grimy sneakers high. The sounds of deranged drums and manic guitars rose from the heat, backed their howls to build an anthem of the pandemonium, a song unknown to the saints' disciples, sung and played for me alone. I could not recognize the team their uniform represented, what the letter emblazoned on their chest stood for, but the skirt's shade of green seemed right to me. I knew ashes made soil ideal for growing spring.
Oh,